I hope all of you are doing well. Today we will start the second phase of class 7 biology. We will be discussing chapter 2, that is classification in plants. So first we will deal with what is classification. Classification in biology means grouping of organisms based on their similarities and dissimilarities. For example, if I give you a bunch of pens and I ask you to segregate them on the basis of their color. So you will differentiate them on the basis of their color and group them into whatever color is available. Maybe it may be blue, it may be black, or it may be red. Similarly, classification of organisms, what do? You group the organisms on the basis of their similarities and differences. Now, why do we do classification? What is the need of classification, or what is the advantage of classification? When we classify, in that case, what we do? We can identify certain organisms which are present in the environment and group them into a particular category or kingdom. Second, it helps us to show the evolution from simple organism to complex organism. Third, on studying specific characters of specific organisms, we can understand what is the characteristics of other organisms in that particular group. Now, if we discuss that how the classification started, then we can say that the first person to start or to classify the living world was Carolus Linnaeus. He classified the living world into two kingdoms, Plantae and Animalia. So these were the first two kingdoms, Plantae and Animalia. But there were a lot of anomalies in this classification. First and foremost, he could not place bacteria properly because bacteria showed characteristics of plants as well as animals, but he placed bacteria in plants. Second, there was a protist called Euglena, which you are well aware of. It contains the photosynthetic pigment chlorophyll. It was grouped in plants, but it did show some animal-like characteristics. So there was some confusion regarding this type of classification. During that time, in the year 1969, R.H., that is Robert H. Whittaker, he classified the organisms into 5 different kingdoms, 5 kingdoms based on these criteria. What are the criteria? Let us see. First was cellularity. Second was complexity. And the last one was mode of nutrition. Okay, so based on these 3 criteria, he classified the organisms, all the living organisms, into 5 kingdoms. What were the 5 kingdoms? Let us start. The first one was Monera. Second was Protista. And then we had Plantae, fungi and Animalia. Now, we will see that evolution has occurred in this particular direction. So, this is the direction of evolution. Now, if we consider the simplest group, that is Monera, we will see that Monerans are unicellular organisms. Okay, they are unicellular organisms. Complexity, if we consider, then they are prokaryotes, and mode of nutrition is both autotrophic as well as photosynthetic. Next kingdom is Protista. Next kingdom is Protista. If we see the characteristics of this particular kingdom, we will see cellularity is also unicellular. Complexity, it has evolved from being prokaryotic to eukaryotic. And the mode of nutrition is again heterotrophic. As well as in very few we we do find autotrophic mode of nutrition. Next, if we see, then here we have all the multicellular organisms, Plantae, fungi and Animalia. This particular kingdom, Plantae, the cellularity is multicellular, complexity is eukaryotic and mode of nutrition is autotrophic. Next we will discuss fungi. Cellularity is multicellular, complexity eukaryotic, mode of nutrition is heterotrophic. And last but not least is the most evolved life form, that is Animalia, the kingdom Animalia. We belong to this kingdom. This particular kingdom, the cellularity is multicellular, complexity is eukaryotic and mode of nutrition is heterotrophic. Okay, so now we will deal with the kingdom Monera. We will see that go through the characteristics and the different shapes and the different types of life forms which come under the kingdom Monera. So first and foremost, let's look at the characteristics. Monerans are unicellular organisms. What does unicellular means? That means they are single cell organisms. They are the most simplest form, most primitive form of organism to be existed on this planet. Next, they are prokaryotic. What does prokaryotic mean? You have already read about prokaryotic organisms in your junior classes, but let's revise it once more. Prokaryotic means one which has primitive nucleus and does not contain any membrane-bound cell organelles. The nucleus even is not membrane-bound. Next, we come under mode of nutrition of monerans. The mode of nutrition of monerans is heterotrophic, but there are certain organisms which do perform or do perform photosynthesis or do have an autotrophic mode of nutrition. So, one more thing I would like to discuss under prokaryotic organism is that their nucleus is not membrane bound and hence it is called nucleoid. Next, we will see what are the organisms which come under kingdom Monera. Basically, there is one specific organism which comes under the kingdom Monera, that is bacteria. Okay, bacteria comes under the kingdom Monera and singularly bacteria is also known as bacterium. This is the singular term, this is for plural. Now, we will discuss the different shapes of bacteria that are found. So first and foremost, let's discuss this shape. This is called coccus. Coccus means round shape. The bacteria which has spherical or round shape is termed as coccus. The bacteria which is rod shaped is termed as bacillus. The bacteria which is spiral in shape, it resembles like that of a spring, then it's called spirogyre. And the bacteria which is comma shaped or you will see the rod shape is twisted, then it is called vibrio. Now we will discuss the structure of a typical bacterial cell. First, as you've seen, I have drawn a bacterial cell over here. We'll refer to the different parts of the bacterial cell. The outermost layer here is the capsule. The capsule helps the bacterial cell to adhere to different surface, to get attached to different surface, and it also helps the cell, prevents the cell from drying out. The next layer is the cell wall. The bacterial cell wall, however, differs from the plant or the fungi cell wall. Then the next layer is the cell membrane. The cell membrane is, inside the cell membrane we have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm, you will find that the genetic material is scattered and it's not enclosed in a membrane. This is called the nucleoid, a bacterial genetic material. Then we do have other structures. These are the storage granules which store either fat or glycogen in some form or the other. The thing which you find is emerging, a tail-like structure which is emerging from the cytoplasm is actually called flagella. Flagella helps in locomotion. So it's the locomotory organ in case of a bacteria. That's all we have for the typical bacterial cell. Now we will discuss the role of bacteria in our life. We'll see that certain bacteria are useful to us, whereas certain bacteria are quite harmful to us. We'll first discuss the usefulness of bacteria in our life. So we'll see bacteria produces medicines. Bacteria produces antibiotics like streptomycin, erythromycin, and these antibiotics are helpful for curing a lot of diseases. Next, bacteria help in curd formation. There's a bacteria called lactobacillus which help in converting the milk carbohydrate, that is lactose, into lactic acid, and hence curd is formed. The third one is production of vinegar. There are certain bacteria which ferment the juices and produce vinegar. Next is tanning of leather. Bacteria help us in help in tanning of leather. In retting of fibers, that means the fibers like jute, they first need to rot. In that process, bacteria plays a major role. Next comes the formation of compost and manures. So bacteria acts on dead decaying matter and it helps in producing compost as well as manure. Biogas production. Biogas is also called gobar gas. What is being done? The cow dung is being taken and in huge chambers they are being acted upon by certain bacteria which produce a gas which is highly inflammable and can be used for domestic purpose. That gas is called biogas. The leftover solid product or liquid can be used as farm waste. Next, it produces vitamins in human gut. There are many bacteria which live in the large intestine and they produce vitamin K which can be used by the human body. Next, the very important role of bacteria is in symbiosis. There is a bacteria called rhizobium which lives in the root nodules of leguminous plants like pea and beans. So this bacteria, what does it do? It fixes atmospheric nitrogen and converts it into nitrates. This can be readily used by the plant and can be utilized by the plant for their growth. Next, bacteria are scavengers. They live on dead decaying matter and they help in removing the decaying matter and increasing the soil fertility by creating